All right, should we talk about Sonic Symphony?
Yeah. What do you got?
Okay.
Tell me about it. I'll react. Blake reacts. That's
what happened was.
What had happened was.
Brooks, who I was just talking about, he's very active on Threads. He has like a legitimate following on Threads now. He was following this guy whose handle is The Bishop Game. He's, I believe, lead developer for the Helix, which is, I'm sure you've heard me talk about the Axe Effects, the guitar processor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Helix
that's right.
is the main one by Line 6. It's sort of the leading product in the broader gear landscape. So Brooks uses a Helix. This guy works on the Helix, and he does some YouTube videos. And he was in New York for a show, and Brooks was like, "Oh, what are you in New York for? What are you playing?" And it was Sonic Symphony. He's doing the sound front of house for Sonic Symphony. He gave him some comp tickets, and it wasn't during the day, so Brooks couldn't take his son because he has a child, which would make sense to bring to a Sonic video game music concert, but it wasn't in the daytime. So he called me, and I will say yes to any weird thing, especially if it doesn't cost me a lot of money. And so I was like, yeah, I gotta go. And I had seen that Ty had posted that he was singing for it. So I thought it'd be interesting. I thought Ty was gonna sing like 3 songs. I thought it was gonna be like, there can't be that many Sonic songs with vocals, right? But I also didn't know how many Sonic games there were. There are a lot.
Just a lot.
And like when they ran out of Sonic games to make, it looks like they just made like a Final Fantasy Sonic game, or like, I don't know, just it looks like they just started like borrowing stuff from other games to make new Sonic games as it went.
I mean, that's what you do with your main mascot. That's what they did with Mario. They Mario Paint, Mario Kart.
No, but
Mario
I mean, like, there's no
RPG, Mario.
But Mario RPG isn't like a Final Fantasy RPG.
It's made by fucking Square. It sure as shit is.
But it's not. They didn't have do Final Fantasy-esque characters show up in it?
No, they didn't kill a god at the end. No.
The closest thing that Mario did to some of the weird Sonic stuff is the one where he's in like the real world, and people got real mad about that. There's like normal sized people, and he's little Mario, and you're like, what the? But Sonic does that.
That sounds awful.
Sonic does that a bunch.
Good.
We'll get to that. That's part of what it was. It was an experience. Let me clarify some things up front. I had a great time at this show, actually. It was a very good concert. Everyone involved did fantastic. Like, I am, you may be surprised that I am not going to crap on this at all. I would be fascinated. Well, maybe like the Sonic universe in some ways, but like, because I'm not going to play into those games. But it was, first of all, it was sold out, New York City. Ty said like 5 times, this is like one of the greatest nights. It was like, he'll never forget it. And he's probably right. It was sold out, and the crowd was insane. They love Sonic. We got to meet the Bishop Game. I don't know if I should look up his actual name or if I just keep using his internet name. I guess if you're doing a podcast, it's more helpful because that way people will remember his Threads name if they want to go follow him on Threads.
There you go.
Man, I didn't think about it's been long enough for podcasting that Threads is like I really didn't like Threads at first. It was my least favorite Twitter, but now it's probably the one I'm using the most because it seems like there's actual my feed's gotten better because I've learned to stop just posting at stuff that was annoying me and like post about music stuff, and there's a lot of music people on there. So sometimes there's like constructive, interesting conversations about music. I did a whole thread about my experience setting up all the guitars at Sam Ash for 10 years, and I got a lot of response. Well, Brooks boosted it for me. That's why I got a lot of questions and stuff. Cut this out.
It's fine. We're gonna retitle this episode in the one in which Matt talks about Threads a lot. And Blake says meat space too many times.
It's relevant to the conversation. It's literally, without Threads, I would not have gone to this show. That's the problem. The problem is Brooks is doing so well on Threads that I was trying to ignore it, but he was doing so well that he has like reach now, and he's continuing to grow. And I think it's partially because I think there's a lot of his same kind of professional class, which is like people in some kind of tech, but not necessarily like the programming side. There are people who are programmers, but also like people in the different aspects of those kind of companies. There's a lot of those kind of people, and a lot of that, you know, I just got done working at a dirtbag music store for over a decade, and I'm readjusting to polite society. But I may not have to as much as I thought I was gonna, because a surprising work opportunity may have changed the amount of polite society I have to adjust to. But Brooks started doing very well at Threads, and so I had a hard time completely ignoring his advice, and I stopped posting the stuff that I'd post on Twitter that would again, where it would warn me like, sure you want to post that because it's a bad word, and because like even if nobody like reports it, what they're basically telling you is like, we're not going to show this to anybody because we want it to be nice. Sure. Threads is for the nice. It's nice internet for the nice people, which is also probably one of the worst parts of it. But they do at least like, it does some of the things that Twitter did when it worked still, and so whatever, it is what it is. I just go where the action is. I don't. If it was up to me, kind of party, I'd be back on IRC. You know, that was where IRC and a message board or two. That was good, but that was a long, long time ago. Now, if you want to use IRC, you have to get a job, and they call it Slack, and it costs a lot of money, and it's probably worse. You can still use IRC, apparently. Okay, so they get way out. Okay, Sonic Symphony. All of this is going to be relevant, though, because this is the video game. This is more video game nerd episode than the Lords of the Trident video game EP, because as the Bishop game told us, a lot of people at this show, it's like their first concert. Like, they're not music fans, they're Sonic fans, and they just came because they like Sonic. They want to go fast. And so the first half of the show is orchestra. There's like a small, so it's called Sonic Symphony. There's like a small orchestra, and they're playing like classical style arrangements of classic tunes. There's always a visual, usually of video game footage to go with it. The first two pieces I recognize stuff from because they were basically medleys, also known as a mashup if you're under 30, of music from the first two Sonic games, which are the ones that I have played. Yeah, they changed that word at some point. It's not my fault. Look,
it's fine.
I gotta translate. I'm trying
to
make it accessible.
Look, just don't say Riz because I'll reach through the screen.
Oh God, no! I would. That's not a replacement. That's just a new unnecessary abbreviation. Unless you're referring to that Frank Zappa album, "Weasels Ripped My Flesh," because the sound effect is Riz.
Obviously, what I was talking about.
Yeah,
obviously.
The first half was interesting. The footage as it went on is where more and more I was like, what game is this from? And there's just so many Sonic games. I don't know if I have much to say about other than like it was good. The musicians were good. I'm glad they have work. The conductor spoke to the audience. Brooks commented how he didn't really necessarily have great banter or like, but like he doesn't need to. He just needs to be like, you guys like Sonic, right? And everyone was like, yes. The audience was very loud. I kind of came from running a bunch of other errands that day. My wife dropped me out like right outside the venue, and I just went right in. I didn't have time to go home and get my earplugs, but then I remembered, I'm like, I don't need my earplugs. I'm not going to a metal show. It's Sonic Symphony. It's like orchestral music, which is also now like baffled and then like mixed, and so it'll be fine. And the music was not too loud. The audience, however, probably permanently damaged my hearing.
Outstanding. That's exactly what you want to hear.
Yeah. They were so loud, and they would get excited about things that I was like, "What? Why? What was that for? What part of the Sonic lore is the, you know?" Oh
Lord, were you too old? Were you being old at the show?
It had nothing to it. It really didn't have that much to do with it. In fact, it was more that I just don't care about Sonic. I play other video games. If this was like a Final Fantasy concert, there would probably be more where I'd be like, you know. And again, I know the first two games. I played them when they were new games, and
careful.
I didn't. No, that was the thing. At one point, he was like, how many Sonic fans we got going back like 5 years, 10 years, blah, blah, blah. And he went on, and I think he stopped at like 20, 25. And I was like,
that's when the 10th one
you didn't get to me yet. What are you, you got to go back further. You didn't get to mine yet. I played the first two and that's it. First two Sonics. Done. And I was like, and what else would you need from Sonic? There were a few that looked kind of cool where they finally like it got 3D. Some of it was kind of cool.
Well, they started introducing more and more characters, and people liked the characters.
Yeah, that wasn't the cool part.
Knuckles the echidna, and he was the edgy one. And
that was not the part.
Tails, and he was the cutesy little fox one. So
Tails was in 2. That was the way you could have a second player.
Oh wow!
Because the second controller could control him. And I didn't get past that.
Probably a lady hedgehog or something. I played.
Yeah. Oh, there's some more. I was able to look up some stuff during the first half because it was a little more chill. I expected only a few songs from Ty, like, and here is our guest vocalist. But no, the whole second half had a metal band. There was a drummer who also, I think, might have a YouTube channel. He's on some stuff on the Bishop Games channel. His name is Blaze, apparently. I think it might actually be his name.
Well, there is a different way to spell that. The BLAISE, which is I think it's still is. I think it's AIZ in his, but I don't. Whatever. There was a keyboard player, bass player, guitar player. I could see that they were headless guitars before the show even started. And I'm like, oh boy. And then Ty, the vocalist, the bass player and keyboard player also did some singing, also did some rapping. Oh, that's a shame. But
there were a lot more raps than I was expecting.
That's the kids these days.
Ty also did a rap.
That's a really, really big shame.
There's a lot of raps, a lot of Sonic-themed raps.
I thought we weren't going to crap on this, Matt.
Well, no, that's the thing. You're going to see there was the raps were maybe the cringiest part, but I have some surprising compliments for the Sonic oeuvre of vocal music.
Okay.
Because the thing that really, first of all, Ty was fantastic. He sounded great. His singing was great throughout. He did stuff I haven't heard him do before. Some crazy high stuff. He did some like kind of growly vocals on one of the songs.
Well,
that I didn't know he could do, and they sounded pretty good. It turns out the Sonic music kind of evolved along the lines of like anime themes.
Oh, sure.
Where there's a little more. A lot of it sounded very anime theme like, in more ways than one. One it gets a little heavier, some more metal stuff, some very Japanese metal sound. Because again, it is like a lot of they credited the composers on the videos.
Sure.
One of the main ones. Let me see. I don't want to just like say it and be completely wrong. But I also want to stop making myself more editing work by stopping to stare at Wikipedia.
That's fine.
I want to properly credit this guy because there's one guy I think had the best stuff in the Sonic. All right, I'll look it up later. Oh yeah, no, Tomoya Otani. Yeah, he's a more modern video game music guy, which makes sense why there's more guitars and vocals and stuff. He's been around since '99. He started with Sonic Adventure 2 in 2001, and he's been like a constant up until Sonic Frontiers, which is I think the most recent one. Which actually that one looked pretty cool in some ways. But my point was that Ty sounded fantastic, and for this kind of gig. Again, it was up his alley because he's into video games and everything, and he's able to do a whole speech about how much Sonic meant to him and everything, and so it's a dream come true. Perfect. Which is like you dreamt of singing Sonic songs on stage? I've never. What's funny about this concert is that it's not that unusual now to do concerts of video game music. Like that's why it was funny when I first heard what it was, because I was like sure, if it was say Final Fantasy or Zelda or even Mario, I've heard a lot about the sort of or Chrono Trigger. Sure. There's a lot of video games that are really known for their music, and I never thought of Sonic as one of them. But I did recognize some bits from the first two games. And again, the songs later on in the like metal sections was not bad. And my biggest compliment, sorry, I'm actually going to circle back to how good Ty was. I have more to say about that. But my biggest compliment to the music was that as it went on, I realized none of it, as much as all the Sonic fans knew it and loved it, it wasn't like there were shout outs to Sonic specific things. Like, it wasn't like you got to collect rings and you got to go like, I mean, there's stuff about maybe
I'm sure there was something about having to go fast. It had to have been. But surprisingly, like, there was nothing about like you got to kill Eggman or Dr. Robotnik in the United States, whatever. There was, you know, there weren't like so it was just generic enough. Again, it sounded like anime themes. Like an anime theme also usually isn't like, this is the Attack on Titan, you know, or this is the, well, actually, I was going to say Evangelion does sort of at least reference angels, but that's the whole thing. So bad example. Dare you?
No, that's the best one. I think it's like the best anime theme of all time. But
I don't know. Big O is a strong contender.
Oh, I don't know if I know Big O.
Oh, you're good. It's very a Japanese band doing Flash Gordon era Queen.
Okay.
Really strong recommendation.
I could dig that for sure.
Rui Nagai, I think. Rui Nagai. Yeah, that's nice. Probably his name. Where the hell did I come up with that? Wow.
I don't know. We have to trade anime recommendations at some point. And by trade, I mean you give me some and I watch them because I've probably seen all the ones that I recommend.
Right.
The only recurring theme that seemed to tie it to the games, and I only understood this because of the game footage that they were showing as it went on, was that at some point Sonic got the ability to like go so fast starts on fire, or like he looks like he becomes the Phoenix, you know, like an X-Men, like he starts like glow.
Sure.
And so there was like a song about igniting, a song about find your flame, you know, they're generic inspirational songs that even if you don't know how they tie into the Sonic franchise, you could be inspired by them. This is a better song than Fire. This is a garbage song. But
not to be confused with Fireworks, which is a fantastic album.
Right. No. But
as we've established,
eventually they started adding the lyrics to the video. Like the thing I noticed early on as someone who does video stuff is I was like, these videos were not that hard to make because you kind of put a credit up front and then you cut a bunch of clips from the game together. You know, that's one of the reasons I'm always tempted to do gaming content, because it's like you just record the video game and cut bits of it together. Half of the big YouTube videos on video games are just talking about the game with unrelated game footage. Like when there's a new Call of Duty coming out, they have footage of the current Call of Duty. It has nothing to do with the one that's coming out. But they're like, here's the new news about Call of Duty. Here's a different Call of Duty. You just want to look at a video game. It doesn't matter. Don't think about it too hard. And so similarly, but this also was good for the concert because, like, again, as the games go on, the visuals get better, and it made it entertaining. Entertaining beyond what it already was. But they eventually became more like lyric videos. They added the words to the songs, which made it easier to follow. And again, this is where I started to realize, you know, they're not putting me off by referencing the lore too much. But that's also probably good because there was a few things I noticed that I had heard of before in various like, YouTube videos about weird video games and stuff like that. A few specific things that happened in Sonic that stood out. One was the game where Shadow the Hedgehog has a gun, and a song and its video start with like a gun and a clip going into it. And I was like, what Sonic game is this? And then it's like Shadow the Hedgehog. And I'm like, oh no, what the hell? And I think that's the Shadow the Hedgehog game. Like there's like one brief shot of Sonic and it was mostly Shadow. And there's a lot of guns in that game. Okay. There were also like normal humans in that game, which is weird. And then there's another game, the one where it looks like basically they put Sonic in a Final Fantasy game. Mm. And all the other characters look like they would be in a Final Fantasy game. And there appears to be like a love interest that appears to be like a human woman. And that's kind of weird.
Well,
And so that kind of, popping up during one of these songs was like, what is going on in this video and in this game? Maybe we should not have revisited this Sonic in particular. But no, they covered all the weird Sonic. There's another one that was like clearly like a semi like D&D kind of fantasy game. Not Final Fantasy, but like D&D fantasy. A dragon and swords.
High fantasy, as they say.
Give Sonic a sword. Yeah, well, I don't know if it was high.
Sword and board?
It was medium fantasy, maybe.
No, swords and sandals.
Sandals? I guess.
That's another...
Sword and sorcery?
It's fine.
It was interesting because they really didn't hold back. I'm not familiar, but I'm pretty sure based on the wide array of games I saw footage from that there was no like game that they didn't. I even remember there was a video about
Did they reference the movie? Because there was a movie.
No, they did not.
Wow.
Which is good because it's a good point. I'm sorry. Well, I guess there isn't like a specific known tie-in song from like one of the game composers. Probably that's probably why. Because I don't think there's probably like popular music that they integrated.
Most likely.
Granted, who knows? Maybe one of those raps. I wouldn't know.
Dragons. There's some.
But there was no.
Players.
They probably also would have had to get a totally separate set of rights.
For
movie footage.
That's almost certainly true.
And that would have made the whole thing worse.
Yep.
I know there was one that I saw like a YouTube video on about like the worst Sonic game, which is one of like the RPG ones that was just like in that weird, awkward middle polygon phase where like looking at them now, games look worse than stuff did before them because it was such an awkward period in like polygon games.
But it was 3D, but it was
right.
Bad.
But also like there's like no detail. Like there's not like it was even bad for the periods. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it.
There's not enough polygons.
But it kept it interesting.
Bad textures.
The band was real good. It sounded really good, which makes sense. It was very modernly produced. Like the drums were clearly like it looked kind of like a real kit. It was like clearly triggers. Like, it was electronic, but it still could sound real because you could just trigger realistic sounding samples now. But that keeps there being from like any real stage sound. And the guitars were all going through processors, probably direct to house. They had in-ear monitors. That not only makes it easier for the performers to hear everything and be tighter, but again, it takes away the stage volume, makes it much easier to mix. There's no like mic bleed and stuff. So it sounded real good. And again, nice. Credit to the Bishop game. He was mixing it. Sounded fantastic. The only sound I didn't like was the crowd trying to make me go deaf with their screams. Good for them. I'm glad they had fun, and I'm glad that Ty got to enjoy that. But it being not on stage, it was less enjoyable because we also had like some of the best seats in the house. We had like the front row of the balcony. And so there was like nothing in our way, and we were just we could see everything, but that periodically these screams from behind us like over weird things that I didn't get why the reference was exciting. As it goes on, it's very inspiring, motivational songs about being like Sonic. But in ambiguous enough, again, this is a compliment, in ambiguous enough way.
Hey, question, before I forget. Yes. So you've referred to Ty as a guest vocalist on this. Now he's going to do this a few times, right? But there's also, I think, Adrian Cohen. Right. So
that's the thing. He really wasn't. I mean, I wouldn't really. After seeing it, I wouldn't call him a guest vocalist. I had like presumed he was going to be like a guest vocalist because I thought there was going to be less songs with vocals. But it was the whole second half of the set. He basically did a whole show of Sonic music, and yes, other dates were Adrian Cohen and. I think the Bishop game told us that they alternate. So I think she started off doing, but I don't know, maybe they both have been doing it since, it's been going on a while. So like, I know Ty, I think has gotten into it more recently.
That's what it sounded like, because I hadn't heard of it until recently.
And the sound guy was telling us it's a tour, but it's kind of more like, it's not so much a typical tour as cities. It is, right, select big cities, like a few nights in each city kind of thing.
Sure.
So that was cool. I was able to tell, Bishop game how I was excited because I knew Ty from Wisconsin metal bands. And then he told Ty that later, and then Ty was like, "Oh, you should have hit me up. You should have hung out." And I was like, "Actually, I wish I could have hung out. Maybe I would have hit him up." But I was running around all day that day. Basically, got dropped off right before the show, and then afterwards, it took a long time to get home from there. It was like way up in like 175th Street. And it took a long it's a long way on the train. It took a long way time to get home. And,
well across 110th Street.
And I am aged, and and so I was real tired, and so I couldn't really, and Brooks couldn't stick around, and so I was like, I do wish I could have hit Ty up and like chatted or something. I didn't know if he would have any time, but I basically didn't have any that day.
Shit happens.
But it shit happens. Well, hopefully Lords of the Triangle will get to New York someday. It was a really, really good show. He did a really good job. I was really thinking, like, after this, like, Ty could pretty much do any sort of like professional vocal gig you would need of him. I was like, he could do a Trans-Siberian Orchestra type thing. It basically, I mean, not that would actually
be money hired gun shit right there.
Right, but I'm saying, like, I think he could do it. I think he has the chops, and it reminded me of that level. And frankly, he did more than a lot of those guys, because there's a bunch of singers at those shows, and they kind of, I was expecting more like that, where like a certain song guy comes out, sings it, a certain song guy comes out and sing it. But Ty did the whole second half of the set, and he talked to the crowd. I think I told you about how he had like this red leather jacket on at the beginning, and I was like, that's a pretty cool jacket, man. Yeah, cool. I guess he's not wearing armor for once. It's interesting. He's kind of different look. It looks kind of cool. And then he explained that, like, he had like a Sonic belt buckle on, and that he realized that it didn't match the jacket because that's more like a Knuckles jacket. And I'm like, I did not realize it was supposed to be. I thought you just went into a store and picked out a cool jacket, but nope, it was a Knuckles jacket to you. And so then he went and switched into a blue jacket, which was a Sonic jacket. So
good.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly positive review. And I don't want to give Ty too much of a hard time, but it was pretty funny. He posted, because the theater is on 175th Street, but on Broadway. It's on the street.
And he had posted that he was on Broadway.
He posted that he was played on Broadway, and I'm like technically, but like
you're on a Broadway.
Technically, I don't know if it counts as Broadway if it's like 100 blocks up from where the usual Broadway stuff is. But I don't want to take that away from him. But it was just funny to me that I was like, you got an technicality. But during the raps at one point, because man, the bass player rapped, and then the keyboard player rapped, and then like I was like, oh, so Ty's probably not going to rap. That's why they're doing it. But no, they also sang some stuff, and then finally Ty rapped too, and he was like, we're in New York, so we got to do a rap battle. And I'm like, yeah, just don't like go outside and say that though, because I don't. This is like, again, we're way out. We're actually Washington Heights. It'd be an interesting story if you went into a local establishment and be like, who wants to rap battle me? And also, it has to be about Sonic. And it wasn't so much a battle as, again, he just like rapped a Sonic song that had raps in it. But it was fun.
Good. Cool.
Yeah. That's okay. They also, like, the singers, there was some good harmonizing. The last song they did, there was like a significant encore. Like, I did not think there was gonna be an encore, but then the orchestral musicians didn't get up, and so I was like, oh, there's definitely an encore, which means he lied to us, because he was like, this is our last song. It's like, people know now, like, it's a different time. It's not like the 80s where you could just lie to people about it being the last song, or about how your AI album is not ridiculous. Reference to the last episode, probably, or this episode, depending on how I cut it.
They've got an extra hour here. It's fine.
They did a couple more songs, which honestly, I felt like the songs got better as they went. Like, the metal ones got more interesting, and like, I honestly feel like the material got better as it went on, which kind of makes sense, because video games used to be way more restricted. They had to basically make video game sounds, and so then translating to an orchestra. But then eventually the games probably just had like recorded guitars and crap on them,
Yep.
Like, they don't have to be.
I mean, there was an awful lot of very solid MIDI artistry once upon a time as well.
Oh yeah, no, and that's the part of celebrating video game music that I understand more. Where I'm like, right, it's amazing what they did with what they had, but now you can just like play it like it sounded. The game can just be playing music. Recorded with instruments. But anyway, whatever, that's fine.
Yes.
So
if you want that,
I feel like the metal songs also kind of got heavier as they went. And so there was a few.
As Sonic got darker, the music got heavier.
Except we're way past the Shadow with a Gun at this point, though. So, like, I don't know. That one wasn't even as... That was, like, one of the first metal ones was Shadow with a Gun. And the songs got heavier, but not necessarily... But then afterwards, they said this was special for New York. I don't know if I believe it after he lied to us about the encore not existing. But they did, like, an acoustic song with, like, a lot of, like, vocal... Like, they all sang. And that was also very, very good. So if you like video game music, or if you like Sonic, or even if you just want to see something different, like I could recommend this show to people. It was a decent night. I have no regrets. I also didn't pay for it, but even if I had paid for it a little bit, I don't think I would regret it. But yeah, well, that's any show now, because concerts are so expensive. I just don't go to like as much stuff because it's a lot harder to be like, yeah, why not? Here's $30. It's like, yeah. So really, really great show. Ty did a really, really great job, and I hope he gets more stuff out of this, and I hope it also maybe brings more attention to Lords of the Trident, his gaming streams.
And if he's doing more vocal styles, not just some of the operatic / metal stuff. I mean, even in the VGEP, he had a little bit of stuff where he used some more like belt range. I don't think there was any growls in there, but he did a couple of different things that did show some different abilities.
Yeah, I think
honestly, when he did, they sounded good. Sometimes better than kind of his normal stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think he's expanded his repertoire a bit. And I mean, I've always said that, you know, he's gotten better and better over the years. You can go back to some really early podcasts. And we had more mix of things to say about Lords of the Trident, but always optimistic. And
Sure.
And so now that these things have come true, like honestly beyond what I expected. And so very good. Again, I didn't think this EP was going to be that good. I don't know why. I just didn't. I don't know, because it seemed like, I don't know. Here's EP, a video game EP. Right. EP, and it's video game themed. I was like, I don't know about that, but it. Great guitar tones, fucking ripping. It's so hell, you know, like they should keep doing it. I wish I could make it to Mad with Power this year, but I will be in Wisconsin later that month, and not
the lineup just didn't sound all that exciting anyway.
Yeah, it would have been funny to see Fellowship for the podcast. Funny, I said funny, not
funny's a word. Funny is a word. Maybe you'll make it to Milwaukee Metal Fest next year.
Maybe,
since I went to that this past year, which is why I couldn't get to your wedding, which is a bummer. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
But it was a good show. So I don't have as many notes. I didn't pay attention to a whole hell of a lot of bands, but it was a good time. I'm probably going to do that next year too. It
was pretty well booked, so I may make an attempt as well.
There was one other thing I wanted to, before I forgot, since we did mention Adrian, Seven Spires also has new video and presumably upcoming album as well, so we'll be probably on the lookout for that. Take a look at that video here on the cast, and when the album comes out, we'll probably talk about it, because their stuff's pretty good. I had no complaints the first time around.
And friend of the podcast, Kai, recorded the drums for the new Seven Spires album.
I did not know that.
I only got to listen to it once. I listened to the new single. It sounded really good. So I'm definitely interested. Check that out. We'll do a full listen and review kind of thing.
Get at us, like, follow, subscribe, all that good shit. Correct us.
Yeah, let us know.
Troll us. I don't know. Just engage the content, you fucks.
If you like audio podcasts, you can find it at yourmusicisbad.com if you don't want to look at our faces. But you can also just...
Why would you not?
Watch it on YouTube if you want. I'm at The One True Matt on Threads and Twitter and Blue Sky and Instagram and YouTube and everywhere. And
I'm hiding. You can get at me through Matt if you want.
Yeah. He's staying on
Blake, who's not on Twitter.
You got to go on. You got to leave comments on the YouTube or directly on the podcast.
You probably hunt me up on Facebook if you really wanted, but don't.
You probably just. But he just won't accept, because Facebook, you have to accept people, and so he's just Catch
you all later.
Good stuff. All right, I'm turning it off now.